The kiss lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds that made the dinner rush go quiet at table 7, made every diner within earshot pause mid-fork, and turned a stupid Thursday night dare into something Naomi Clark could not explain away no matter how hard she tried. She felt it the instant her lips touched his. Not sparks, not the dizzy heat of attraction. Something heavier. A shift. Like the whole restaurant had inhaled and forgotten to breathe out. The warm amber lighting of Voss and company felt suddenly sharper. The clatter of plates, the low hum of conversation, the faint jazz from the overhead speakers. All of it muffled, as if the room itself had pressed in close to watch. Naomi pulled back first. She always pulled back first. She was already smiling, already pivoting on her heel, and already composing the version of this story she would tell Dre and Kazia and Simone back at the service counter. Hilarious, reckless, done. A dare completed, money earned, except he hadn't moved. She felt it before she fully turned. The absence of his reaction. No laugh, no irritation, no sharp word to send her back where she came from. Just stillness. She looked back. Matteo Voss sat with the same posture he always had at table 7. Spine straight, shoulders squared, one large hand resting flat on the table. He was big in the way that didn't announce itself. Not a man who flexed, not a man who needed to. The black t-shirt across his chest was simple, fitted, and left no ambiguity about what it covered. A sleeve of dark ink ran down his right arm. Tattoos she had noticed from a safe distance all these weeks, never this close. His jaw was clean-cut, his hair short, and his eyes, dark, unreadable, completely focused, were locked on her face. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. He was watching her the way a man watches something he hasn't decided what to do with yet. Naomi's smile held, barely. She made herself keep it there through sheer force of will. "You good?" she asked, voice breezy, already 3 steps toward gone. His gaze didn't move. Those dark eyes didn't soften, didn't sharpen, didn't do anything except stay on her with a patience that felt, somehow, more dangerous than anger. "You didn't do that because you wanted to," he said. Low, even, not a question. Naomi felt the words land somewhere in her chest. She kept her expression light. Around them, Voss and company kept its rhythm. A server crossed behind her with a tray, and a couple at the next table laughed at something private. Silverware clinked against ceramic. Nobody else had noticed. The whole world was moving at normal speed except for the 6 inches of space between her and this man. "Dare," she said. One word. Easy. He tilted his head a fraction. Not toward her, not away. Just adjusting the angle of his attention. His right arm shifted on the table, not reaching for her, not blocking her. Just present. She was aware of his size in a way she hadn't been from across the room. He took up space the way immovable things do. Without apology, without effort. "You let people use your courage for their entertainment," he said. Still calm, still unbothered. Something in Naomi tightened. She lifted her chin. "Nobody used anything. I wanted the money." That landed differently than anything else had. His eyes shifted, just barely, and what moved through them wasn't irritation. It was something that looked uncomfortably like interest. He studied her for a long, quiet second, the way a man reads a sentence he didn't expect to find. Then he reached into his jacket pocket, set a business card face down on the table, and slid it half an inch toward her. "Then you should know," he said quietly, "that I have a great deal more of it." He picked up his espresso. The conversation, if it had ever been one, was over. Naomi grabbed the card without looking at it, turned on her heel, and walked back to the service counter at a pace that she absolutely refused to call a retreat. Behind her, Matteo Voss watched her go. He didn't look away until the kitchen door swung shut behind her. Then he turned the espresso cup slowly in his hand. Looked at the empty chair across from him and thought, with the calm certainty of a man who rarely wanted anything twice. He came back on a Saturday. Not during her shift. Before it. Naomi was still in her street clothes, coat half off, coffee in hand, when she looked up and found Matteo Voss standing at the host stand, like he'd reserved the entire morning. No suit this time. Dark trousers, a gray shirt, sleeves pushed to the elbow. He looked exactly as large and unmovable as he had 2 nights ago, and exactly as uninterested in small talk. He found her eyes across the room and tilted his head toward table 7. She almost laughed. Almost. She sat. He didn't waste time. His family council, he explained, had attached a condition to his annual leadership review, and he needed to be married before it convened, 6 weeks out, or his seat passed to his cousin Roman. He had a list of suitable candidates. He had ruled them all out. She was not on the list. Then why am I here? Naomi asked. Because you're not on it, he said, as if that explained everything. He slid a single folded page across the table. 6 months. Legal marriage, private contract, monthly payments. The number he said made her set down her coffee carefully. Full medical coverage, her and her immediate family. At the 6-month mark, a clean divorce, a settlement, and mutual silence. No one needs to know it isn't real, he said. Naomi looked at the page. Then she looked at him. Then she laughed. A real one. The kind that comes out when something is so far outside reasonable that it laps back around to funny. She left the page on the table and walked out. She called her mother's doctor from the parking lot. Heard the number. The same number she'd been quietly calculating around for months. The one that sat behind every double shift and every skipped grocery run. She sat in her car for a long time. At 9:47 p.m., she called Matteo. I have conditions, she said. A pause. Brief. Final. Name them. She signed at his dining room table 3 days later. He slid the ring across the wood without ceremony. She picked it up and put it on herself. He didn't help. She didn't ask him to. The penthouse was beautiful the way museums are beautiful. Impressive, immaculate, and not designed for anyone to actually live in. Naomi stood in the entrance with one rolling suitcase, a potted snake plant tucked under her arm, and a Bluetooth speaker in her tote bag. Matteo stood a few feet back, watching her take it in with the patient expression of a man waiting for a verdict. She looked at the clean lines, the muted palette, the shelves with nothing personal on them. She looked at him. It's very gray, she said. It's slate, he said. Those are the same thing. He didn't argue. He showed her the room that was hers, separate, private, exactly as agreed, and left her to it. They negotiated the rest over the following days the way 2 people negotiate a lease, without sentiment, with surprising efficiency. He woke at 5. She worked evenings. He took calls in his office with the door shut. She played music in the kitchen and didn't turn it down. He didn't ask her to. She noticed. One afternoon, she found him watching her rearrange a shelf. Her books and her things, reshaping one corner of his gray space into something with color. You don't have to do that, he said. She didn't look up. I know. I'm not doing it for you. He was quiet for a moment. Then he left the room. She kept the job at the restaurant. He didn't like it. She could see that much in the single careful question he asked 3 days in. Was it necessary? She said yes. He nodded once and never raised it again. That, she decided, was more than most people managed. The plant went on the windowsill in the living room. He never moved it. The Voss family dinner was exactly what Naomi had prepared for. A table full of well-dressed people asking kind questions with sharp edges underneath. She had declined the stylist Matteo offered. She wore what she chose, a structured deep green dress, heels she could stand in all night, and earrings her mother had given her. She walked into that dining room on her own terms, and felt every eye in it adjust when she entered. Matteo's mother was cool and precise, her welcome the temperature of polished silver. Two aunts circled with champagne and questions wrapped in compliments. Naomi answered everything directly, offered nothing extra, smiled when it was genuine. She had waited tables long enough to know the difference between curiosity and assessment. This was both. Then there was Roman. He was handsome in the way that made Naomi immediately careful. The kind of handsome that knew it was a tool. He greeted her warmly, publicly, with a kiss to the cheek and a broad smile, which was exactly the problem. Warmth that performed itself was never warm, and he found her alone near the drinks table while Matteo was pulled aside by an uncle. "How much is he paying you?" Roman said it the way people say things they've rehearsed to sound casual. Naomi picked up her glass. "More than you're worth worrying about." She walked away before he could recalibrate. In the car afterward, Matteo asked if she was all right. She said yes, because she was. Then she asked the question that actually mattered. "Is Roman dangerous?" Matteo looked at the city passing beyond the window. A long pause. The kind that contains its answer before the words do. "He becomes dangerous when he's losing." Naomi filed that away and didn't take it out again until she needed it. Dre found it first. He didn't say anything, just turned his phone screen toward her before her shift began. And the way people deliver bad news, they can't find words for. The headline was a question. Who is the mystery woman behind Manhattan's most dangerous man? The photo below it was her. Not a new photo. A pulled one. Naomi in her work uniform, name tag visible, a tray in hand. The caption implied the obvious, that someone had gone looking. The piece didn't say much. It didn't need to. The implication was the point. That Matteo Voss had lost some essential sharpness, that his new wife was a joke someone in his circle was quietly laughing at. A waitress. From his own restaurant. She put the phone down, tied her apron, and worked her shift. He was at table 7 when she came out. She hadn't called him. She hadn't texted. He was simply there, jacket on, espresso untouched, waiting. She sat across from him. Neither of them spoke first. "Oh, I should have moved faster on the source," he said finally. "I'm sorry." It was the first apology she had heard from him. It arrived without decoration and sat between them like something solid. "Roman?" she asked. "Yes. And?" "It's being handled." She studied him. In the low light of the restaurant, he looked exactly as controlled as he always did, but there was a tightness around his jaw that hadn't been there before. "Why does it matter to you?" she asked. "The photo. My name. It doesn't affect the arrangement." He held her gaze. "You didn't sign up for humiliation," he said. "That's not what I offered you." Naomi looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once, stood, retied her apron, and went back to work. She didn't say thank you. She didn't think he wanted her to. She smelled it before she opened the door. Garlic. A something browned and warm. The kind of smell that belongs in apartments where people actually live. The kitchen light was on. Matteo stood at the stove with his back to her, sleeves pushed up, working with the focused economy of a man who had done this 1,000 times in private and never thought to mention it. She set her bag down quietly. "You cook," she said. "Yes. You didn't tell me that. You didn't ask." She sat at the counter and watched him finish. He plated 2 without asking if she was hungry. She was. She always was after a double. They ate at the kitchen counter, close but not touching, and talked the way people talk when they've stopped guarding the conversation. About a novel she was halfway through, about a street in the Bronx where he'd grown up, and about what she had wanted to be before life narrowed the options down to practical. He listened like each thing she said was information he intended to keep. Later, she fell asleep on the couch, not meaning to, just the accumulated weight of weeks landing all at once. When she woke, the room was dark and quiet. A blanket had been pulled over her. The lamp on the far side was off. She lay still and looked at the ceiling. 3 days later, her mother's doctor called with the latest scan results. The treatment was working. Naomi took the call in the bathroom, sat on the cold tile floor, and cried as quietly as she could manage. Not quietly enough. Mateo didn't come in. He didn't knock. When she opened the door 20 minutes later, there was a glass of water on the floor outside it. She picked it up. She drank it. She didn't say anything. And she didn't need to. Her mother mentioned it the way people mention things they've decided not to worry about. Casually, at the end of a call, tucked between updates about the new nurse and a complaint about the hospital food. A young man came to visit, said he was a friend of your husband's. Very polite. Naomi kept her voice level. What did he look like? The description was Roman. Of course it was Roman. She didn't call Mateo from the car. She waited until she got home, until she could sit across from him at the kitchen table and look him in the face while she said it. She told him exactly what had happened, exactly what her mother had described, and exactly what she needed him to do about it. No rage, just precision. The particular cold clarity of a woman who has been patient long enough. Something moved across Mateo's face that she hadn't seen before. Not the controlled stillness she was used to. Something beneath it. Something that looked a great deal like fury that had been very carefully contained. He made one call, stepped out to make it. She heard nothing but the low register of his voice through the closed door, and the quiet that followed. His second told her, the following morning, that Roman had been formally removed from succession consideration. He had been warned once. The implication of once was not lost on anyone. When Mateo came home that night, Naomi was waiting. She didn't thank him. Thanks felt like the wrong register. I'm not a liability, she said. I know, he said. That's why I moved. A beat. She held his eyes. For me or for the family? He looked at her for a long, steady moment. Don't ask questions you already know the answer to. She let that sit. It sat well. The Voss Foundation Gala occupied the top floor of a midtown hotel. All glass walls and soft gold light. The kind of event that required everything to look effortless while being carefully engineered. Naomi wore deep red. Mateo wore black. They arrived together and the room noticed. The way rooms notice things they've been watching for. She had been to enough events by now to know the choreography. Who to greet, who to deflect, when to be at his side and when to give him room. She had learned the shape of his world the way you learn a language by living inside it. She didn't love the world, but she had stopped feeling like a visitor in it. They danced once. He held her like she was something worth being careful with. She let herself lean in, just slightly, in the way you do when you've been holding yourself at a careful distance for too long, and your body has simply had enough of it. Later, they stood at the windows. City lights spread below them, the party soft and distant behind them. She asked the question that had been sitting at the back of her throat for weeks. When the 6 months end, what happens to you? Mateo was quiet for long enough that she heard the answer in the silence before the words came. I keep running what I built, he said. She nodded. Her voice came out even, which she was proud of. And you'll find someone real. It wasn't a question. He turned to look at her. Naomi, don't, she said. Quiet, not angry, just certain. Not here. Not with all of this around us. If you say it here, I won't be able to trust it." He held her gaze for a long moment, and then he looked back at the city. He didn't say it. The moment passed. They returned to the party. They smiled at the right people and said the right things, and the rest of the evening looked exactly like it was supposed to. But something had been right there, close enough to touch, and they had both let it go. Later, lying in the dark of her room on opposite sides of a wall, she wondered if he felt it too. The absence of the thing that almost happened. Day 180. Naomi woke before the alarm, which she had expected. She lay still for a moment, looking at the ceiling of the room that had been hers for 6 months, listening to the apartment breathe around her. She made coffee. She left a cup on the counter for him, black the way he took it. Then she went back to her room and packed the way she had arrived. Efficiently, only what was hers, which turned out to be less than she might have imagined. A suitcase, the books, the speaker. She left the ring on the kitchen counter, next to his cup. She wrote a note, spent longer on it than she expected, crossed out 3 versions. The final one said only, "Thank you for keeping your word." She didn't leave because the 6 months were up. She left because she had fallen in love with a man who had never offered love as part of the arrangement, and she was too clear-eyed to wait in a room where it might never come. She left the snake plant on the windowsill. Something alive. Still here. She wasn't sure why. She didn't examine it. She closed the door quietly behind her. Matteo came home to the silence at 7:30. He noticed it before he cleared the entrance. Not the absence of noise. Something more particular than that. He set his keys down. He saw the counter, the cup, the ring, the note. He read it once. He stood in the kitchen for a long time without moving. His phone rang. Business. He didn't answer. He went to the window. The city below was indifferent and endless. The same city it had always been before she arrived and made this apartment something other than a place to sleep. He looked at the windowsill. The plant was still there. She had left it on purpose. He understood that immediately. He just stood there and understood it and said nothing, because there was no one left to say anything to. He sat down. He thought about what he had never said and all the ways he had convinced himself that showing was the same as saying. It wasn't. He knew that now. He decided. The council meeting lasted 40 minutes. Matteo had prepared for the resistance. The stunned silence. The sharp questions. The one uncle who stood up and then thought better of it and sat back down. He answered everything once, clearly, without revisiting. He was stepping back from daily operations, transitioning control to his most trusted lieutenant, maintaining oversight of legitimate holdings only. Several people in that room looked furious. His mother said nothing, but he saw something move across her face that he hadn't seen directed at him in years. It looked like relief. He walked out of the meeting and didn't look back. Voss and company on a Tuesday afternoon was quiet. The lull before the dinner rush, tables half set, the low sounds of the kitchen running beneath everything. Matteo came in without a reservation, and the host recognized him and went still in the particular way people went still around him. "Table 7, Matteo said. He sat. He ordered nothing. He waited. She came out of the kitchen 12 minutes later with 2 plates balanced and her hair pulled back the way she wore it for work. And she stopped when she saw him. Just for a beat. Long enough for him to see it register. She delivered the plates. She took her time about it. Then she crossed to table 7 and stood across from him with her order pad in hand, and her expression exactly as it had been the first night. Direct, unimpressed, entirely herself. "We're closed for reservations," she said. "I'm not here for dinner." The restaurant had settled into its particular stillness. From the corner of his eye he could see Dre at the service counter, very carefully pretending to check his phone. And Mateo looked only at Naomi. "I signed away the organization," he said. "Not to satisfy a contract, not to manage a situation, because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life being the version of me that couldn't say out loud what you are to me." She didn't move. Her eyes were very bright. "I love you," he said. "I should have said it before you left. I didn't, because I was a coward in the one way that ever actually mattered." A silence. The kitchen hummed. Somewhere a glass was set down. "You gave up the business," Naomi said. "Yes. For me. For the chance that you'd let me try again." She looked at him for a long moment. 7 seconds. He counted, because he found he was counting everything now. Paying attention in the way he had always been capable of and had never before thought to apply to something worth keeping. Naomi set her order pad on the table. She crossed her arms. "Table 7 has always had terrible tips," she said. "You'd better make it worth my while." He stood. He took her face in his hands, steady, careful, the way he had learned she needed things, with intention, not performance. He kissed her. Not for 3 seconds, not on a dare, not under the terms of any contract anyone had thought to write. For real. Finally, entirely for real.